So far, we have been talking about series on relational database, history and series. And we also discussed some simple SQL statement, create and drop. Following the discussion, we are going to have a lab in class. And after the class, we are going to have an assignment, homework assignment. The homework assignment will ask you to install PostgreSQL on your machine. Also, after you install the PostgreSQL on your machine, you need to get inside and run some SQL, run a create, run a drop. Basically, that's what you need to do for homework assignment. Before this homework assignment, however, in our lab, because you haven't installed you haven't installed Postgres yet. So I'm going to ask you to go to a website which provides you some free online SQL, simple SQL access, where you can practice some of the create and the drop statements in the lab. Then of course, after the class, you will start working your homework, which will require you to install PostgreSQL. So for this session, I'm going to show you the SQL, the PostgreSQL environment, how to run the SQL statement. I already showed you the installation part of Postgres. Now we just need to go through how to open up Postgres and run the SQL there. Now, after that, I'm also going to show you the SQL website that you are going to use in the lab. Okay, now let's start. So how do you start? You go here, click on here, and go to Postgres. PostgreSQL. And yours should be a different version, a later version, but click on pgadmin4. And as you can see, I already create a quick link here. So pgadmin will launch. By the way, I'm going to repeat this again because this is a fundamental thing you need to learn, how to run the PostgreSQL. So today I'm going to show you how to run this, and I'm going to repeat the same in next week after you have your own experience. Yeah, I'm entering the super user password, where I'm going to get into some kind of database. So let's just say I'm going to right click on this Postgres database and choose query tool. Once I click, it will give me a query tool that I can use for running my SQL statement. So now I'm typing in create table. Let's say I'm just creating a sample table with parentheses and with some int. This is one create statement. After create, of course, I need to drop it, right? So I'm going to put the drop table. There are a few things I want to mention here. First of all, you can see that I have a semicolon. Semicolon itself is not a part of SQL, but it helps you separating different SQL statements. If you don't have a semicolon, you can still run SQL. Well, without semicolon, Postgres will think this is one simple statement, right? If I click here, you see this. This is the run, the execute button. So if I click on button execute, it will tell me syntax is wrong because you cannot have a create directly followed by drop. But what you can do is once you add simple semicolon, then Postgres will identify these as two separate statements. And when I highlight all of them and I run, Postgres actually runs a create and drop the table immediately. So I'm not going to see anything, but basically this works because Postgres was able to identify these as two separate statements and run them, one in the order that is presented here. Now, if I do not have semicolon, I can also just highlight it and click on this button to run SQL. Remember, when you type in, you are just telling Postgres there is a SQL statement. You need to click on this button, execute button, in order to run the SQL actually in Postgres. So now that I run it, if I open this up and go to schema, open up the table, the database, open up schema, open up tables, you will see this is the sample table that I just created with one ID column. Then now I can also highlight the drop statement and run this. Once I run, it's actually dropped, but then I need to right click on the table entry and click on refresh. You can see once I refresh, Postgres identify this. This is no longer, this table no longer exists. So if you want to run multiple statements, you can either use a semicolon to separate them and run them in one batch, or you can highlight the statement that you want to run and run it one by one. Something about SQL statements that as you can see, I put create here. I can also put a drop as a capital letter, right? Or table. The word table can be in capital letter. Keywords in the table column names are not case sensitive. They are not. And you can break this up like this. You can add some indentations. It's not going to impact what this create statement means. So line breaks and extra spaces are ignored. You can, but try to form a convention. Use a proper uppercase or lowercase, whatever your preference is, and use proper indentation, right? So for example, like here, I put an indentation here. I can put also indentation here, or I do not need to have an indentation. All these are possible, but if you want your code to look better, it's better to apply proper indentation and proper convention. Okay, so much is for Postgres, and I show you how to run this. Now, let's talk about the online SQL practice. You can go to a site called SQL Fiddle, right? Now I click on here. I actually copy this and go to this website. You can run your create statement here, like create, the same create. Let me just copy this. Just copy this together. I press the Control-C button to copy, and I'm pasting it here. Now, if I run this, it will fail because it will also have the same issue that thinking without the semicolon, SQL Fiddle will think this is one statement which does not meet any SQL standard, right? So you can see that you have an error. Now, but if I put the semicolon and I highlight this part, schema ready. And now let's see what the schema is. Let's go to browser and see the schema. Oh, apparently there's no schema because SQL Fiddle actually run both of them. Now, if I remove this drop and just run this build schema, and now I go to browser, you can see the sample table is here with ID. So this is how you run. But of course, this free online editor only provides you with a very simple rudimentary functionalities. In order to learn SQL, you still need to install Postgres SQL and make sure it works in your environment. But this is just for the first week before you have Postgres installed.